The idea is that when we're starting UPSC preparation from zero, we need to have a basic sense of like where we are. In college, obviously, what happens is that you are spending a lot of time on college activities also. You are going to college classes, exams, all of these things will also take up time. If you're preparing full time, then again, you have more time, and all of these things will also, take up in the session today. So what is the agenda? First and foremost, we'll talk about the exam pattern, age limit, attempts, what are the stages. How many of you are aware of the exam pattern? Yes or no? Okay, most people are aware, so we can speed that up. Then we'll talk about syllabus for prelims, mains, and interview. Then what are the sources that you can follow? What is the ideal schedule for a week, for a day, and for 2 years, because this is how you can start preparation from scratch for 26, 27. So like that will what we'll be talking about. We'll also talk about some do's and don'ts, that what are the core key ingredients which help you be successful in civil services exam preparation, and what are things that you should avoid. Finally, we'll also talk about revision, कब करनी है, कहाँ करनी है, how do you plan it out, current affairs, notes, test series, and finally we'll end with consistency. Right. So that is your agenda for the day. But before we go any further, we should always have the end in mind. What exactly are we aiming for? Right? I want to become an IAS officer. I want to become an IPS officer, IFS officer. Right? These are the general things that you hear a lot. You might want to become an IRS officer. Recently, there's a new movie, Ajay Devgan, Raid, which has come out, which is popularizing this service quite a bit. So the idea is simple, that I want to become this officer, but what does it require for me to get there? So I'll show you a mark sheet. This is my mark sheet from the year 2017. And this is what you're looking for, right? You're looking for this recommended, which is the UPSC recommending you to the government for, service. And these are all the things that you will be graded upon. What are the things you will be graded upon? The essay, the 4 GS papers, optional, your personality test, and final total, which will come out. On the basis of that, you'll get a rank, but in general, you have been recommended for service. Now, what also happens is there is something called the reserve list. How many of you are aware of what is the reserve list? Is anybody not aware of what is the reserve list? Awesome. So reserve list kya hota hai? Now this is my mark sheet from the year 2018. Right. Number of things different you'll notice. सबसे पहली चीज आप notice करोगे कि ये total यहाँ पे काफी गिर गया है. Previous was 990. Here it has fallen. The biggest fall is over here. Previous it was 157. And now, this has happened. Even in sociology, there was a drop. मतलब 10, 10, 10 marks सारे कहीं इधर उधर गिर गया. Personality test, there is an increase, but again, since there is a corresponding fall in other places, eventually what happens is that I got this. But I only missed the cutoff, the final cutoff for this not recommended to become a recommended by about 1 mark. So hota kya hai that in any given year, there are a number of people who are giving the exam for rank improvement. Like for example, even I was giving in 2018 the exam for rank improvement. 2017 I had already been selected. So in 2018, I gave it for rank improvement, but again, I did not get a rank. There are some people who will get a worse rank than they did before. Let us say, there is Aditya Srivastav who secured AIR 1. Right. Last year he had AIR 1. So Aditya Srivastav ke saath kya hai that before that he was already an IPS officer. Now let us say that instead of AIR 1 he had gotten AIR 250. So at 250 he would not be getting even this service. So what would happen? He would drop out from the list. Every year there are some people like Aditya Srivastav who are giving the paper for rank improvement. And if these people improve their rank, well and good. But if they don't improve their rank, they drop out from the list. When such a gap is created in the list, right? Because UPSC ko kya hota hai? UPSC is given a number. UPSC is given a number of seats. Let us say 1050. That the government has said that we want to hire this many number of candidates for civil services, and UPSC must recommend us this many number of candidates. So now that people like Aditya Srivastav, who maybe did not get a good rank, have dropped out from the list, there is a vacancy that is created. Earlier, 1,050 were recommended, but now let us say 50 have dropped out. 50 people who were giving for rank improvement or who have been declared medically unfit or for any other reason, they drop out from the list. So now UPSC will recommend 50 more candidates, and these 50 more candidates are what is known as the reserve list. Right. And generally what happens is that the people who are 1 mark away, 2 marks away from the cutoff at the time tend to make it to the reserve list. I hope this is clear to everyone. So reserve list ka idea simple sa hai that every year UPSC has to recommend a number of candidates. This will depend on the number of vacancies that the government of India is coming out with. Based on that, it will recommend candidates. Some people will drop out, maybe because rank improvement ke time pe they could not improve their rank. Maybe they were declared medically unfit. Maybe some other reason. Maybe they figured out that I don't want to do this anymore and go away somewhere. But again, that is rare. So in such a case, reserve list comes up and reserve list में फिर और लोग आगे आ जाते हैं. So ये हमारा end goal है. This is the end goal that we are achieving for, that we want to get like enough marks to be recommended. Having that in mind, now we come back to the basic, that now we want to start preparation from zero. What are the things that we need to do? We already saw that there are 4 GS subjects, there is essay, there is optional, there's personality test. So what is the biggest problem with civil services exam preparation? The biggest problem is this, that there's just too much that you need to do, right? There is obviously the extensive syllabus that you have to cover. Usme bhi, best sources kya hai? There's a lot of debate, discussion ki bhai ye book kare, wo book kare, kahan kare, kya kare, kaise kare. So there is a lot of discussion over here. Then sources में CSAT के लिए आपको अलग चीजें और करनी है. Then mains के लिए आपको अलग चीजें और करनी है. Optional, whole thing you'll have to take up all over again. And there is a lot of PYQ practice also you'll have to do. Finally, notes, revision, testing, exam का pattern change हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा है. Then best strategy क्या है हमारी, consistency कैसे maintain करें, that mental health, physical health, all of these things you have to take care of in the whole thing. And the biggest factor in all of this is that there is a time crunch, right? If I had 5 years to prepare, I can go very easy, right? I can study 2 hours, 3 hours in a day, and maybe, then it'll be fine. But that also has a problem in itself. Ki bhai 5 saal tak, will I be interested in studying? Maybe not. So there's always that factor of time, that I want to prepare in the most practical amount of time. I don't want to prepare for 10 years from now, because I know for a fact that 10 years I will not be able to sustain my motivation to study for an exam. So I want to prepare for 1 or 2 years from now. And in that time, then there is a lot that needs to be done. This is the biggest problem with civil services exam preparation, right? Now, a lot of people also have this, misconception that I need to be a genius in order to clear civil services exam. Why? Because there is that constant, prelims questions are what we see the most. And when we see prelims questions, we tend to feel, okay, they're asking questions from anywhere. How many of you have seen prelims 2025 ka paper? So for those of you that have not seen, definitely please go and check out that paper, because again, this is the paper that you're preparing for. If there is a new version of it out, it's your job to check it out. Now, what happens is with prelims, you get questions on, EV batteries, and then you get questions on Indian history, and then you get questions on, Arghatta kya hota tha, and then you get questions on international. Everything seems to be asked. So it generally seems to be the case that a lot of people who prepare for civil services exam are under the misconception that, you have to be a genius in order to clear. So how many of you who are attending this session today have at one point or the other said to yourself, I am an average student? Yes or no? Right. So most of you are saying that yes. There are some who have said, no, I've not said I'm an average student. That's very good. So this is what I want to address over here. You don't need to be a genius. You don't need to be Albert Einstein with an IQ of 160, 180, whatever. Nahi, you don't need that. If the average IQ is 100, you'll probably need 110 to 120 something. You'll need to be above average, slightly, not too much, but you don't really need to be a genius. And I'll say this here, that people who are geniuses find it very hard to clear this exam, for the very simple reason that they get, distracted too easily. This exam is going to be a slog. This exam is going to be boring. It is going to be repetitive. It is going to be like, a grind. Matlab, it's after a point, you're just going to be reading the same book again and again and again, 4, 5, 10 times. It gets boring really fast. When we're starting UPSC for the first time, it's very interesting. I'm reading history, geography, economy, polity, environment, art and culture, science and tech, current affairs, international relations. Everything seems interesting. But when I have to repeat those same things for the 10th time, it gets so boring that it is the people who are here, who are emotionally balanced, those are the people who will find better success in this exam rather than people who are, very high IQ, because the very high IQ person will drop out from this exam. Right. Now, another thing I want you to keep in mind over here is a very, very important idea called growth mindset. Growth mindset is the simple idea that even if I don't have all the skills required to clear this exam right now, I can develop them. If you have this sort of a mindset, it will be easier for you to approach this exam, to clear this exam. But if you have a fixed mindset that, I'm an average student and I will remain average, I cannot change that. So then obviously, things will be difficult, because there will be times where you will be challenged. Maybe you like history, but you don't like geography. Maybe you like geography, but you don't like polity. Whatever it is, there are enough subjects over here that some subject will be problematic for you. And when you have a growth mindset that, okay, I'll take this as a challenge, I still have to learn this, I still have to, make progress over here, it will be easier for you. Having a slightly above average IQ plus good EQ. So for those of you that are not aware of EQ, EQ is the simple concept that IQ is measuring your test on कि भाई दिमाग कितना तेज चल रहा है. EQ is how emotionally well balanced you are. Meaning, when you are sad, when you are happy, am I just like, when I'm happy, तो then मतलब सब जायदाद लुटा दी मैंने, and like, I've sold away all my property and just celebrating because I'm happy. And when I'm sad, then am I depressed? No. EQ is a more balanced person who knows that, ups and downs will come in life. There will be roadblocks, there will be challenges, and able to deal with them. They are able to communicate, they're able to, have a good social relationship and a support system. So EQ agar aapka acha hai, you will find success. Growth mindset, if you have, you will find success. Slightly above average IQ, you will find success. Genius IQ, you will most likely be unsuccessful in this exam. I hope this is clear. Let's now come to the exam pattern. Exam pattern mein, we'll talk about details of prelims kya hai, mains kya hai, and interview kya hai, and what are the expectations. And I'll show you the official notification that what is UPSC saying that, what we are going to be asking. So, सबसे पहली चीज हम बात करते हैं age limits. For obviously there are different categories over here. There is general, there is OBC, there is SC, ST, and there's also EWS. But EWS में age limit आपका वो नहीं है. General में 32 है, OBC में 35 है. Here it is 37. Right. So again, because of the Government of India ka rules and policies, this is how it has been designed. The number of attempts available to general are 6. Here it is 9. Here it is unlimited. Unlimited, now bolne ke liye unlimited hai ye, but again, there is an upper age limit. Beyond a certain age, you cannot try for this exam. But till that age, if you want to give the exam every year, go ahead and give it everywhere. Now, how is the date calculated? That, when are you eligible? So the reference date for that, according to UPSC, is 1st of August. Meaning, ये जो 32, 35, 37, ये क्या है? That date is calculated based on 1st of August in exam year. Let us say that you're giving for 2026. Right, so 2026 May, what is your age on 1st of August? If on 1st of August 2026, you are above 21, more than 21 years, and less than 33, you are eligible. This is the simple thing. On 1st of August, am I 21? Even if exam ka form I'm filling in February. So this is something that confuses a lot of people, that I'm filling the exam form in February I'm sitting for prelims in May, but your age is calculated based on this date. On 1st of August 2026, if I will be 21 years old, meaning let's say this person is born on 1st July, right? 1st July of 2005. So do you think this person will be eligible for 2026 attempt? Yes or no? So for those of you that are saying no, again, simple idea क्या है? 1st of July 2005 वाला जो person है, on 1st of August 2026, how old do you think they will be? They will already be 21. So they will be eligible for giving the exam in this particular year. Right. So this is something that I wanted to clarify, because a lot of people keep asking me this, will I be eligible? Will I not be eligible? Reference date for you is this. 1st of August पे आपका age क्या है? That is what matters the most. Right. So moving on, coming to attempts. I think attempts के बारे में हमने general बात कर ही ली है. The general के लिए you have 6 attempts, OBC के लिए you have 9 attempts, SC ST के लिए you have unlimited attempts up to a certain age. Right. So attempts के बारे में we've talked that general, OBC, SC ST all have different number of attempts, and that is based on age. Age, like we saw, is calculated based on the reference date of 1st of August. अगर ये clear नहीं हुआ है, so then again I would ask you to go back, think about it, क्या problem है, and moving on from that. Now coming to the plan of the examination. The civil services exam consists of 2 successive stages. Right, 2 successive stages आपके हैं, which is the preliminary exam, which is commonly known as prelims, right? And then there is the main exam, which is commonly known as mains. तो बोलने को prelims and mains is nothing. It is the preliminary exam and the main exam. So main exam is made up of 2 parts, the written and the interview, right? So the personality test stage is nothing but part of the main exam itself. Now plan of the exam is such because of how prelims and mains are conducted. तो prelims and mains का क्या part है, कैसा है, इस पे भी हम थोड़ी बात करते हैं. Syllabus and Sources पे आते हैं. Yeah. So prelims का pattern जो है, prelims is for us a MCQ type exam. MCQ is your multiple choice questions, right? You will be given A, B, C options. Let me just show you a question from prelims. Will make our life easier. कहाँ गया? Yeah. Right. So this is a question as it comes in the prelims exam. What will happen is you are given a question, and on the basis of that, you're supposed to choose one of the 4 options, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. This is your preliminary. MCQ type, there will be 2 papers, 2 into 200 marks. These will be GS and CSAT. So these are 2 papers that you're going to give for prelims. And the preliminary stage is essentially a filter, nothing else. Now, preliminary is also one of the hardest stages of the exam because it is such a great filter. How is it such a great filter? Because almost 14 lakh people apply for this exam. 14 lakh people apply for this exam, and eventually 14 to 15,000 people give the main exam. So the success rate for prelims is about 1%. So while it is a filter, it is a very, very, big filter, that 99% of the people preparing for this exam, or people who have registered for this exam, preparing to we'll talk later, but this many people register for this exam, of that 14,000 will give mains. But again, there's something that I want to clarify over here, that in this, not all 14 lakhs are preparing seriously, right? This is also something that you have to keep in mind. Not all 14 lakhs are preparing seriously. What happens is that of these 14 lakhs, अगर सिंपल सा हम देखें, फर्स्ट इंस्टेंस पे ही ये 7 lakhs हो जाता है. 7 lakhs, 14 lakhs register, but only 7 lakhs appear for the exam. Appear for the exam का क्या मतलब है? That these are people who came and gave prelims. तो हाफ आपका यहीं पे हो गया, between register and appear. Of these 7 lakhs, we know that 80%, approximately 5 lakhs, तो बचे मतलब 5 लाख जो है इसमें से 5 lakhs are नॉन सीरियस. नॉन सीरियस का क्या मतलब है? आई एम श्योर यू नो पीपल जिनके पेरेंट्स ने उनको फोर्स कर दिया है दैट यू शुड प्रिपेयर फॉर सिविल सर्विसेज एग्जाम, या somebody registered for them and then told them कि जाओ जो पेपर तो दे ही आओ. How many of you know such a person that जाओ पेपर तो दे ही आओ? That is what I mean by non-serious. That these people are not prepared only, right? They don't know what are the questions, what are the subjects that will come. They are just there for the sake कि somebody told them, somebody registered for them and like भाई पहुंच गए हैं. So remaining there are these about 2 lakh people. These are people who have at least covered the syllabus once. अब ये 2 लाख में भी only 1 lakh people who have sort of prepared, who have given tests, who have revised, who have done all the things that are required. So this is effectively your competition down from this. I hope this is clear that registration ke liye there are 14 lakh people who register for civil services exam in any given year, but it is only about 1 lakh people who have actually done the work. So it may seem like that the success rate is 1% and it's very hard, very difficult. From the outside, yes, it will appear like that. But eventually, it is from that 1 lakh people that 14,000 are going to give mains. ठीक है? Now, एक और चीज यहाँ पे हमें बात करनी चाहिए that in any given year in prelims, so the data for 14 lakhs and 7 lakhs and all of this is available in the official UPSC report. UPSC comes out with a report every couple of years. So in that, they are giving this data that how many people are appearing, how many people registered, and like how many people were clearing in first attempt, XYZ, all of those things. So the idea here is simple, that because there is such a big filter, naturally in prelims, there will be a lot of people who are sort of missing out on the edge. Missing out on the edge का क्या मतलब है? That there'll be people who missed by half mark and there'll be people who cleared by half a mark. Right? So this is why prelims is one of the toughest stages of the exam, because of the volume of people giving this. Right? So prelims के syllabus के बारे में बात करते हैं थोड़ी. तो prelims का syllabus is one of the broadest syllabus that you will find. Broadest why? Because this is it. This is the entire syllabus for the general studies paper. And अब इसमें क्या लिखा है? Current events of national and international importance. Okay, how much importance? How do I decide importance? Because it's just given importance, so then everything sort of becomes important at certain place. Then it says Indian national movement and history of India. So because it says history of India, this will also include ancient, this will also include medieval, and this will also include art and culture. So all of this is included in just this history of India. Then you have Indian and world geography, physical, social, economic geography of India and the world. Then you have Indian polity, governance, the constitution, political system, panchayati raj, public policy, rights, issues, etc. So the idea is this syllabus is so broad because there is no detail given. Because when you give detail, so then you also are bound by it. We'll see that in mains. कि mains में क्या होता है कि बहुत detail आपको given है. मतलब mains का syllabus itself is 4-5 pages. Here half a page का आपका syllabus हो गया. Then we come to economic and social development. Special focus on sustainable development, poverty, inclusion, demographics, social sector initiatives, and general issues on environmental ecology, biodiversity, climate change that do not require specialization. Do not require specialization, meaning very basics of environment. Then there is general science. So effectively, it's a very broad syllabus, and because of which it's difficult sometimes to understand okay, what are all the things that I'm supposed to be doing here. But the good thing over here is this is an MCQ type paper, and in an MCQ type paper, the things that I have read, the things that I have studied are an important part of it. But beyond that, the options also tell me something. तो उस पे थोड़ी देर में आते हैं. But CSAT का syllabus, now this is GS 2 in prelims. GS paper 1 was general studies, GS paper 2 is CSAT. Over here, your comprehension, some communication skills, logical reasoning, general mental ability, and basic math. Now, basic math, बोलने के लिए यहाँ पे they've said that should be class 10th level, But again, year on year, there can be some variation. Maybe it is slightly higher, maybe it is slightly lower. This is not something that you can control because again, well, 10th ka level, what exactly is it? It is also very hard to specifically define. But the important part is this paper is qualifying in nature. Qualifying ka matlab, you only have to secure 33% marks. Out of 200, you have to get 67. If you have gotten this much, you are fine. And then merit will be decided on general studies paper 1. So general studies ka paper 1 jo ye hamara hai, this is the paper that is determining whether I am clearing prelims or not. So whenever you hear somebody saying that, mera cutoff ke upar aa raha hai, so cutoff is determined by this paper. And here, all of these things you have to study. All of these things will again be used in the mains part, right? तो इसमें एक basic sort of segregation आ जाता है between the subjects, and this is something that I want you to keep in mind, right? Basic क्या आ जाता है यहाँ पे, that there are two different categories of subjects that you can have here: static subjects and current or dynamic subjects. Dynamic subjects आपके कौन से हैं? International relations, current affairs, right? Current affairs of international and national importance. These are things that will keep changing, right? Science and tech may, like, how many of you are, what was the, which year did chat GPT get launched in? Who can tell me in chat? Which year did chat GPT come out? Right, it came out in November. एक तो ये जो 2019 वाले हैं, नहीं, chat GPT came out in November of 2022. Right. So since November of 2022, we have had so many changes, so many updates, and so many things that, it's a rapidly evolving and changing environment. So this is why this isn't dynamic, meaning this will always be updated. This will constantly keep getting renewed. This is the thing with environment, with science and tech, international relations, and current affairs. कि भाई अब President Donald Trump ने कुछ नया बखेड़ा खड़ा कर दिया, so again, I can't predict it. I can't do anything about it. On the other hand, there are some static subjects. Static का क्या मतलब? There is a defined set syllabus and not much variation in that syllabus. 90% of it will remain the same, right? What? History. History is set. History is done. Not much going to change over there. Polity, right? Until and unless there is a constitutional amendment or some major law that the government is bringing, polity is going to be 90-95% the same thing. You're supposed to study the constitution. Constitution is not changing very frequently. Economy. Here, you understand the basics, because economy also has a current aspect, that there are some changes which are coming up. Like, for example, RBI has changed the repo rate. How many of you are aware of, what is the repo rate right now? Percentage terms, now there is a good variation. Somebody is saying 5, somebody is saying 5.5, and somebody is even saying 6. But good, at least you are aware that there is something called a repo rate. Fine, right now we don't need to be worried about that. This sort of a thing is what you need to understand with the economy, that I need to understand what is a repo rate. That part is going to be static, but what is the exact repo rate right now is going to be current. For the exam purposes, I am not concerned about what is the current repo rate, but I need to understand the concept of repo rate, right? So therefore, economy is in your static part. And finally, geography. Geography is again one of those subjects that 90-95% of what is being asked will not change, right? The basics of geography, fundamental geography, where do you find resources, all of these things are pretty much constant. In dynamic, what you might get asked from geography is, let's say that, there is a war going on in Russia, Ukraine. There's a war going on, Israel, Palestine. They will ask you ki, acha, what are the countries surrounding Israel? Or what are the countries which are surrounding Ukraine? तो बोलने को अब ये ज्योग्राफी का क्वेश्चन है, but again slightly related to current affairs. Getting my sense of it? तो ये प्रायोरिटी ऑर्डर ही हमने इस तरीके से बनाया है that, history is the most static and geography still slightly more dynamic, but the concepts part of geography will be pretty much set. Is the distinction between static and current subjects clear to everyone? So that's what I want to explain over here, that static subjects can also have a current focus. ये वाली चीज समझ आ गई that, economy में repo rate I should understand, that is a basic concept, but what is the exact repo rate will be slightly current oriented. So between these subjects, I want to focus on the static subjects first. These are the things that I want to go first, and then I want to come here. The reason for this is absolutely simple, that since this is not changing a lot, if I do this, I can say that 50-60% of my syllabus is done, and I'm stable and sorted. So this is the first thing that I want you to remember. This static versus current wala variation jo hai, we'll follow that up in mains and like every stage of the exam. Now, coming to mains ka pattern. Mains ka pattern, these are your subjective papers. Subjective mane, you are supposed to write answers. Supposed to write answers, what? How many answers, what answers? So first and foremost, let's talk subjective ke alawa, how many papers are there? Who can tell me how many papers are there in the mains exam? Right. So people getting confused between 9 and 7. Good confusion to have. A total of 9 papers you have in mains, 2 of them are qualifying. These are your language papers. So language papers आपके 2 हैं. Again, just like prelims, these 2 papers are also qualifying. Meaning here you don't even need 33%, you only need 30%. The total for language papers is 300 marks. So you're supposed to get 90 out of 300. If you can get 90 out of 300, you don't need to be very concerned about the language papers. These 7 papers, these are what actually, are your marking papers. तो अब ये marking papers हमारे कौन कौन से हैं? Here you have the essay, you have GS1, GS2, GS3, GS4. GS is short for general studies. We'll talk about each of them. And finally, you have the optional, which is again 2 papers. So ये जो 7 papers हैं, these 7 papers are what are deciding the merit, right? Early on, this is exactly what we saw. That's why I showed you these things right at the start, right? कि यहाँ पे आप देखोगे language papers का mention ही नहीं है कहीं पे, because they are not being considered for your final merit. What is being considered? Your essay, your GS, 4 GS papers, optional paper, and finally personality test. Language papers ka the most important role is that your GS papers will only be evaluated if you have passed the language papers. So again, while the language papers are not something that I want to spend a lot of time on, you should spend at least some time on कि ऐसा ना हो that मैं language papers में ही I have failed and then my papers are not even checked. This does happen every year to a couple of candidates कि भाई language paper I have failed and therefore I am now facing a problem. ठीक है. तो ये हमने देखा कि भाई जीएस के पेपर्स ऑप्शनल, लैंग्वेज ए बी. तो लेट्स जस्ट टॉक अबाउट ऑल ऑफ दीज थिंग्स वन बाय वन. सबसे पहले आते हैं लैंग्वेज पेपर्स पे. तो द पीपल दैट आर कंसर्न्ड अबाउट कि ओके व्हाट इज गोइंग टू बी आस्क्ड इन द लैंग्वेज पेपर्स, विल आई बी एबल टू डू दिस दैट एक्स वाई जी. सो in the language papers there are 2 tests. One is Indian language and one is English. English is compulsory and the language papers can be any of the 8 scheduled languages. 8 schedule में India has some official languages, more than 20. तो जो आपका 500 का नोट होता है, राइट, उसके पीछे let me just see if I have a note right here, right? तो if you've seen the 500 का note, on this side here you have a lot of these languages written, right? You can give the exam in any of these languages and there are other languages also which are mentioned in the 8th schedule. So in any of these languages you can give that Indian language ka paper. Karna kya hai isme? You will be asked to solve some comprehension, some précis writing. What is précis writing? It is just that you're given a 400-500 word passage and you're asked to summarize it in 100 words, 150 words. Usage and vocabulary, you'll be asked synonyms, antonyms, पर्यायवाची जिसको बोलते हैं, and some short essays. Similarly, in the Indian language paper, there will be translation to English and vice versa. Meaning, passage given in Hindi, you have to translate to English. Passage given in English, you have to translate to Hindi or whatever language that you're choosing in that case. So ऐसा नहीं है that you need a lot of proficiency over here, but you do need some, right? And this is also important because see, eventually if you become an IAS officer, you don't get to choose your cadre that I am only going to serve in this state, that state. You are assigned a cadre. Let us say that you're assigned a cadre in a state where you don't know the language. So some language you have to have for communicating, that is English. And second language is just कि भाई you should know at least one Indian language. Whenever you're posted in a state like that, कि भाई let's say that I am from Haryana, right? I don't know Marathi. If I'm posted in Maharashtra, I will be expected to pick up some Marathi. How much of it I pick up, again, will depend on me. But the more Marathi I pick up, the easier it will be for me to do my service in Maharashtra. Right? Is this clear? So, languages के बाद आते हैं हम general studies papers पे. So, general studies paper 1, mains ka syllabus, again, I've cut short over here. Otherwise, if you look at the main syllabus, it is about 4 pages long. If you want to refer to it, you can go and visit, UPSCprep.com. I think वहां पे अगर हम जाएंगे तो yeah, you go to UPSCprep.com, resources, UPSC syllabus. We put up the UPSC syllabus for you. General Studies 1 का syllabus if I open up, तो ये just ये General Studies 1 का syllabus है. Similarly, ये General Studies 2 का full syllabus है, 3 का full syllabus है. Right? So obviously, it is a lot, and I would highly recommend that you go and read the entire syllabus in detail. But in brief, let's talk about it here also. GS1 में you get history. History का multiple parts over here. Modern history, meaning history of Indian national movement. Then there'll be some art and culture. There'll be some world history. And here for the first time, you're getting post-independence history. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark some things. What specific am I marking? These are the main specific subjects. क्योंकि देखो history, modern art and culture, ये सब आपका prelims में भी था. World history and post-independence history are for the first time coming in mains. Geography, we already had in prelims. Indian society, this is something that is coming up new for the first time in mains. Polity, we had in prelims. Governance, we had. Social issues. Social issues, major focus comes up in mains. International relations कुछ हद तक आपका prelims में है ही. तो GS2 आपका is the most overlapping paper between prelims and mains. Now GS3, this is where things get interesting because disaster management, this is something absolutely new that you're supposed to study for mains. Internal security, again something absolutely new you're supposed to study just for mains. GS4 is the entire paper you're only supposed to study for mains. This paper is not relevant for prelims, and therefore a lot of people, what they tend to do is I will start preparing for 1, 2 and 3 because there is a lot of overlap between these 3 papers and the prelims ka paper, and I'll keep this for slightly later. Right? We'll come to this when things come to that front. So this is the idea कि mains का syllabus and prelims का syllabus में there is a great amount of overlap, but at the same time there are some mains specific subjects in almost each paper. I hope this point is clear. Mains specific subjects, these are only asked in mains. Yes or no? Malab, eventually you'll have to get a very good sense of them. I would highly recommend that you go and refer to the entire syllabus, and if you're serious about preparation, I would highly recommend that you mug it up. Mug it up माने कि रट्टा मार लो syllabus का at least रट्टा जरूर मार लेना. Now you might hear a lot of people saying that do this, that, XYZ, but it's not just कि syllabus का रट्टा मार के मेरे को syllabus पता है. It's also very useful when we come to answer writing. This is something that can help you write better answers if you have mugged it up. Something again for later, but that's why syllabus को रट्टा मार लो, इस पे सवाल जवाब ज्यादा नहीं है. ऑप्शनल सब्जेक्ट की बात करते हैं. Now optional में you have, I think, your 22 schedule 8 languages, and you have then 26. So you have a 48 total subjects to choose from. Now, all of these subjects, you can choose any of them, and you are expected to have a honors degree level of understanding, right? कि भाई slightly higher than bachelor's degree and slightly lower than master's degree, honors degree जिसको बोलते हैं. So you're supposed to have an honors degree level of understanding in any of these subjects, and here literature of any of the following languages. These are the schedule 8 languages. So यहाँ पे a lot of people in the recent couple of years have also started taking up literature वाले options, but mostly if I talk about it, there are 4 or 5 very popular optionals. I'll highlight them right now. So obviously sociology is one of the more popular options. Political science and international relations is one of your more popular options. Then anthropology, again a very popular optional. Geography, again a very popular optional, and history. So between these 5 optionals, we had said that 14,000 people are giving mains, right? Between these 5 optionals, almost 10,000 people are covered. The rest 4,000 will have a mixture of any of these. Some will have chemistry, geography. If you are also preparing for the engineering services exam, so then a lot of people, what they do is they'll take up the engineering subjects, electrical, civil, mechanical, right? So these are for in case you're giving also the engineering services exam. At the same time, if you're preparing for the forest services exam along with civil services, so then there is a slight difference. In the forest services, you have 2 optionals. One optional generally people choose forestry, and then some of these options are not in the forest services. So ये जो subject का choice है यहाँ पे, it becomes very important. Like one of the reasons why I personally never gave the forest services exam was because I chose sociology. Sociology is not one of the options that is available in the forest services. Why am I telling you all this? Even though we are talking about, how to start civil services exam preparation from scratch, a lot of people over time tend to give number of exams alongside. So it becomes easier for you if you understand that there is some difference. If you want to also appear for the Indian Engineering Services or the Indian Forest Services, so then choose your optional wisely. Is this understood? तो optional को अब choose कैसे करना है? Again, it's one of the most important choices because this will determine how many other exams you can give and how much time you are spending on preparing for this. तो इसमें सबसे most important thing is subject affinity, meaning do I like this subject or have I done my graduation from this subject? If you've done your graduation from, let's say, political science, from sociology, anthropology, from geography, or any of those subjects, you can definitely choose that. Why? Because already you've spent some time studying about that subject and it will become easier for you. Second, let's say that you're going for a subject which is not your graduation. Like, for example, in my case, I'm a civil engineer and I chose sociology optional, right? So one of the reasons for me choosing sociology was definitely because I liked the subject. I wanted to know more about how society works, and if there is a way to study about it systematically, why not? So for me, the biggest option or the biggest sort of deciding factor was this: is there material available for sociology? Because if I'm a civil engineer and I'm doing an entirely new subject, I will have problems if I'm trying to do it by myself, because again, this is not a general studies paper. General studies mein you're supposed to have a generalist level understanding. Here, you require a specialist understanding, honors degree level. So therefore, if there are resources, if there is some guidance available, in case I have doubts, I'm not saying 100% you need it, but most of the times you will need it. It will be beneficial for you if this is available. Finally, scoring potential. Scoring potential की बहुत simple सी चीज है. This changes from year to year. Like for example, a lot of people from engineering background choose कहाँ गया हमारा this as your optional of choice, mathematics. Why? Because it's much easier to score 300 plus marks in mathematics than it is to score in any of the other ones. But again, there is a caveat over here. Mathematics is one of the biggest, longest sort of optionals to cover. Just to complete the syllabus of mathematics will take you anywhere, 6 to 7 months. Whereas sociology or PSIR or anthropology for that matter, you might be able to do in 3 to 4 months. 3 to 4 months का भी ये मतलब नहीं है कि बस मतलब हल्के हल्के में हो जाएगा. 3 to 4 months of serious study. But wait, mathematics, while it has a greater scoring potential, it will also require you to, devote more time to it. And this is something that I would like to clarify over here. Even though mathematics has a very good scoring potential, if you do not have an engineering or mathematics background, I would highly recommend against choosing mathematics, क्योंकि थोड़ा high level आता है. So moving on, coming to the book list. Now book list में there are 3 tiers to it. Tiers का क्या है? And like again, we'll not be going into the details of the book list in this session itself, because I think it's already been like 55 minutes that we've started it. And if we start discussing the book list for each subject everywhere, it will take 1 more hour from here, and we have a lot of other things to cover also. So there are these 3 videos that I've made. I'll give you a brief about कि क्या क्या इधर होने वाला है. So in this particular video, what we'll do is this is the NCERT book list. NCERT के लिए I've also made a more recent video. You can check that one out also. Or this is just to get you started. NCERTs are a good resource to get you started, but beyond NCERTs also will have to cover some resources. What resources are those? That will be covered in this particular video, where we'll be covering the prelims ka book list. So right now we saw that between prelims and mains, there are some common subjects. Everybody remembers those? कि prelims and mains के बीच में common subjects थे कुछ? Yes or no? Right. So in this particular video, we'll be covering the book list in detail for those common subjects which are both in prelims and mains. History, geography, polity, economy, ये सारी चीजें इधर cover हो जाएंगी. So these are your NCERTs are step 1. Step 1 माने कि these cover your basics. Once your basics are done, you come to here reference. Right, these will be slightly more advanced books like Lakshmikant, books like Indian Economy Handbook. All of these things are covered in this particular section. Finally, in mains, we come to level 3, where we'll talk about the more advanced material. Advanced material is in 2 parts. One part is कि भाई जो prelims के लिए book list हमारी cover करी थी हमने, उसको थोड़ा और depth में हम जाएंगे. And then we'll also cover the mains specific subject, right? The mains specific subjects, like for example, we had world history, we had Indian society, we had social justice, we had internal security, disaster management, ethics. All of these things will be covered in this particular video. So go through all of them. They'll be very helpful for you. This will give you where to get started. If you're finding any subject very difficult, let's say geography सर के ऊपर से जा रहा है, not making sense of geography at all, start here, go here, right? The idea with this is very simple, that how many of you, when was the last time that you studied history? If you have graduated college or you're in 2nd, 3rd year college, when was the last time you studied history? Right, so for most people, particularly if you're science background, तो भी 10th class was when it was. How long ago was 10th class? At least 4 or 5 years, maybe 6 years, right? So because it has been so long, if you follow this sort of a progression, coming back into the subject becomes easier, right? I can jump here directly, nobody's stopping you. But what will happen is कि a lot of it will just go above your head, and then it will just seem very confusing, and I'll be disheartened, and I'll feel like, I am not capable of doing this XYZ, when what was happening was basically a difficulty issue, right? You have to start the game at the easy level and then progress accordingly. If you feel that this is too easy, jump here. If this is too easy, jump here. If this is too easy, what are you doing here, right? So that's the idea. Level hai, go according to the levels, because it has been a while since you studied all of these subjects, and jumping directly to the advanced level will make it all go above your head, right? So coming to the last stage, which is the interview pattern. So interview stage जो हमारा होता है, interview stage is the point where sort of, this is something also that most of you have seen, right? I'm sure all of you have seen some or the other YouTube video where, topper ka interview, mock interview, this channel, that channel, 100 different places you will have seen. And while over there it may seem like, you know, these people are so smart, they can talk about everything XYZ. What is not visible at that time is this progression, that most of those people have gone through this progression. First they did the NCRTs, then they did this book list, and then they finally came to the mains. Having done all of that, now they're sitting in front of you, and what you're seeing is the final product, right? What you've seen is the final product. And wahan pe, there are some clear guidelines that have been given by UPSC. Ki bhai, interview mein, this is not like a viva, right? School mein, college mein, there is that viva that happens where, you know, Q&A, question answer, question answer, question answer, and there's just like, ki bhai, acha, what is this? Answered, what is that? Answered, what is that? So that's a very Q&A type thing. No, this is not what it is. Here, you'll be asked questions on matters of general interest, right? So general interest को दो चीज में यहाँ पे तोड़ा गया है. General interest is one, current affairs, and based on your DAF. DAF is the detailed application form. Detailed application form में क्या क्या चीजें आएंगी कि भाई where is your father from? Where is your mother from? What does your father do? What does your mother do? Like, what have you done so far? Do you have any work experience? What is your graduation degree? Do you have any interests, any hobbies? Or like, have you any work experience? Or have you done any internships? Have you won any prizes, medals, scholarship, anything of that sort, right? इसमें ये भी चीजें आ गई कि what district were you born in? What is your state of birth? Like, where all have you stayed? XYZ. So detailed application form is, like it says, it's a detailed form. You get to fill this when you clear prelims, right? After prelims is done, they'll ask you to fill DAF ka part 1. Once you clear mains, they'll ask you to fill DAF ka part 2. DAF part 1 mein, all of these things we talked about, where are you from, father, mother, details, job, work, XYZ. DAF 2 mein is where they'll ask you ki, acha, if you clear this exam, what is your service preference? Would you want to become an IAS or an IFS? So then those things come up. But to get to that stage, you will be asked questions on matters of general interest. So anything that you have written in your DAF, you can be asked questions on that. Let's say that I'm from Haryana, and Haryana is sort of, you know, infamous for having a very, very skewed sex ratio. So if I'm sitting in the interview, I can expect that they might ask me a question based on that, even if it is not in current affairs, but I'm supposed to have taken a general interest in the things that are going on in my state. Similarly for your state. And then current affairs. Okay, Donald Trump has done something, or something is happening in Europe, or something is happening in China. I should have some opinion about it. I will have already formed a base of all of these things, because as we saw, international relations was in prelims and international relations was in mains. Everybody remembers that? International relations हमने prelims के लिए भी कर लिया है, mains के लिए भी कर लिया है. So now that if I come and sit in the interview and somebody asks me that, you know, what is happening between China and USA, I already have some knowledge. But how will I present it? That is what matters. So some of the qualities that will be judged are mental alertness, critical powers of assimilation. क्या मतलब है इसका? It means that I have read 5 different reports, and based on those 5 reports, I have come to an understanding कि अच्छा ये हो रहा है. I've read a report from the left, from the right, from the center. I've read a report from China. I've read a report from US. All of these things in the course of my preparation I've read, and after that I have formed an opinion of what is happening. Then clear and logical exposition. माने कि I might have understood, but I should also be able to explain it, right? Because that is very, very important for the interview. Balance of judgment. माने कि अब ऐसा ना हो कि मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि चाइना तो बेकार है एकदम, मतलब चाइना वाले बिल्कुल बेवकूफ हैं, XYZ. No, you should have a balanced opinion, because again, right now India and China are not very friendly. Maybe they will be in the future. We don't know. Like, things might change. So having that balanced opinion, having that balance helps you see the other side also. Finally, some leadership abilities, ability for social cohesion, and intellectual and moral integrity. कि वहीं पे जाके अगर आपको, they figure out कि this person is here to do corruption. So, something. So, for example, there's a very nice story over here. There was a certain Mr. B.S. Bassi. How many of you heard of this name, B.S. Bassi? So for those of you that have not heard of this name, B.S. Bassi was, I think, Commissioner of Police of Delhi, IPS officer, very senior, retired as Commissioner of Police of Delhi, and then became member of UPSC. And as a member of UPSC, he was infamous for, putting candidates under a lot of pressure. What he'd do is, he's the, he's sitting right in front of you. कि भाई UPSC का जो interview आपका होता है, you are sitting here. There will be the chairperson, which is member of UPSC, will be sitting here. And then there will be 5 experts who are sitting here. So Mr. Bassi is sitting over there. Mr. Bassi obviously has that bombastic personality. He's been commissioner of police and he's used to dealing with all sorts of things. So what Mr. Bassi used to do is he'll lean back on his chair, put his feet on the table, and directly to your face he'll say, I know why you're coming in here. You're coming here to earn black money. And a lot of people were stumped by it. Well, nobody expected that to happen in the interview. But why am I talking about this? Because this is a very nice story about mental alertness. So the person that this story was told for, what did he do? That when faced with this question, Mr. Bassi is like, मुझे पता है तू पैसा खाने के लिए आ रहा है इधर. So that person, very alert, very mentally sharp, he said, sir, ना खाऊंगा, ना खाने दूंगा. Right? Which is Prime Minister Modi's very, iconic line, neither will I do corruption, nor will I let anybody else do corruption. And in that one moment, through his mental alertness, the situation is diffused. Right? So that's the idea. Mental alertness is sometimes very, very useful because these sorts of situations can crop up. Now, the interview, again, it's not a Q&A. It is a directed conversation. Okay? And UPSC itself has written over here that your knowledge has already been tested in the written part. Your knowledge has already been tested in the written papers. This is not a test of your knowledge. This is genuinely a personality test. And what are the things being tested? We've talked about over here. So is this clear? Are the do's and don'ts for do's and don'ts general pattern of the exam clear to everybody? So again, before we proceed any further, very important for you that prefer doing the static subjects first, then after those static subjects you do the dynamic ones or the current ones. For any given subject, you should try and follow this order. Any given subject, let's say I'm doing economy, first I try and read the NCERT, then I will read the basic book, then I will also attempt the previous year questions, then I will also give tests, and somewhere in the middle of all this I will also start making notes. This is the general process that I want you to follow for any given subject, because see, if you start making notes right here, what will you do? You will make the note of the entire book itself. You will not make a note of, okay, what is important, what is not, because you don't know what is important. So note making starts somewhere over here. Once you have done reading of NCERTs and at least one reading of the basic book, that is when you start all of these things. Is this clear? Notes don't make from day one. There's a difference over here that some people have a habit of making running notes. What does running notes mean? Running notes is the idea that while I'm reading something, I'm also scribbling it down. That is something you're doing, fine, keep doing it. But if you're thinking I'll make my final notes right as I'm reading the NCERTs, doesn't happen that way. So therefore, one reading, once you have done that one reading, that is when you start making the notes. Only after you have done the first reading. And one of the most important things at this point can be feedback and review. So you can prepare for civil services exam by yourself, but getting some feedback at times can be useful. And feedback and review pay, obviously, I'd also like to mention the UPSC Essential course that we have. Essential course for 2026 and 27. This is the course. This is our 3-year course. Now, 3-year doesn't mean that classes will be for 3 years. Classes will be for 12 to 18 months, but you'll get 3 years of access to mentorship. Right? If you have any doubts, any questions, any queries specific to your preparation, 3 years of access you'll have to mentorship. You'll also get a full test series. You'll also get, the phase-wise thing that we talked about. First we start from NCRTs, then we cover the basics, then we cover to the advanced materials. So the course has also been designed that way. And the classes will be live classes with access to recordings for 3 years, meaning anytime, any number of times you can watch these classes, you will have access to them. Let's say you join in June of 2025. So till June 2028 you have access to this. And इसमें भी बहुत सारी चीजें और हैं. There is current affairs classes, there's a full test series का evaluation भी है, मतलब number of things. And the most important thing for those that are interested, there is a pre-launch discount that is going on till the 10th of June. So if you want to know more details, you can visit courses.upscprep.com. And all जो हमारा code है for discount and any of these things will be available to you over there. All right. So coming back to the discussion that we were doing. Now, pattern of the exam is clear to everyone. No doubts over there. When will it end? In another, 30 to 40 minutes. Absolutely awesome. So let's talk about some of the underlying factors for success. These are the do's, and then we'll also talk about the don'ts. Do's के लिए सबसे पहली सबसे important चीज that you have to understand and don't focus on memorization. Don't worry about memorization on day one. Focus on understanding the concept. Try and understand what is being talked about. कि अभी बहुत सारी चीजों की हमने बात करी. Try and figure out कि अच्छा क्या कहना चाह रहे हैं. What is being said instead of trying to memorize. Because I see a lot of people in chat also, will I get a copy of this presentation? Can I watch this recorded later on? Can I do this, that, XYZ? Focus on understanding. If you can do this, this will become easier. This will become easier if you understand. But if you don't understand, you cannot memorize everything because there is too much to do. Okay. Second is you have to simplify and prioritize. With civil services exam, prioritization is going to be one of your most important skills. What do I mean by prioritization? A very simple idea of prioritization was this, right? This is a very basic prioritization that first let me do the static subjects, then I'll do the current subjects. What is this? I am prioritizing the subjects which will not change compared to the subjects which change a lot. So this is what I mean when I say prioritize. Simplify. You don't have to do too many fancy things, fancy material, fancy PDF, XYZ, कुछ नहीं करना है. All the basic resources जो detailed videos में आपका है, मतलब NCRTs, same resources have been working very well for the past 15 years. 2011 to 2024, 25 even, this year का prelims also. Same resources work. You don't have to go, okay, I have to go and get the latest book and this, that. No. Basic things work. What is hard is that you have to repeat them 10 times. Okay. Finally, getting some feedback can be useful. Now, this feedback can be from your seniors. This feedback can be from people in your neighborhood who are preparing. Now, some of you might have access to toppers in your neighborhood or through your father's colleagues or something. If you can get some feedback that, this is what I'm doing, can you help me? It can be very useful because in general sense, so obviously you'll get from this session also, but having your specific queries resolved can be very, very useful. Finally, be boring. The first 3 to 6 months of UPSC preparation are very, very interesting because we're reading all of the things for the first time. After that, it's stupid and mind-numbingly boring because I'm supposed to do the same book 10 times. And if you cannot handle this, the other things won't matter a lot. क्यों? क्योंकि ये boring वाला part जो है ना, that is what makes for the people who clear the exam. Because not everybody can handle this, and particularly true in the age of social media. Particularly true in the age of social media, जहाँ पे क्या problem आती है that I am constantly Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. How many of you watch brain rot content? Right. So that's what I am talking about. If you are already addicted to dopamine content, this is going to be hard, and if this is going to be hard, the rest of your journey is going to be harder. So some people asking, will I also be one of the mentors in the essential course. So yes, me, Shashank sir, who's the co-founder UPSC Prep, and he's a mains master strategist. Krishna sir, Ketan sir, all of these people are past rankers and people who have multiple interviews and mains ka experience. All of these people will also be your guides and mentors in this course. Right. So details, obviously, visit here. All of it you'll find कि भी कौन mentor है, कौन teacher है, who will teach what XYZ, the detailed schedule and everything, all available over here. Now coming to एक basic idea कि don'ts. What are the top causes for failure? Do's के बारे में हमने बात करी. Be absolutely boring. If you're thinking, this was one of the biggest problems that I made in my one of the second attempt. I think that first attempt I just read the NCRTs. I had no guidance, I had no nothing, and just I figured I'm overconfident, I am super smart, and I'll just do it. And I just read the NCRTs, and the next time around when I came to my second attempt, third attempt, what I thought ki yeah, I've already read the NCRTs, why should I read them again? Why not study the same material or same content from a different book? That is a wrong way to think about it, and that is where sort of guidance helped me the most, which is what I'm telling you right now. Same book multiple times is much better than a new book every time, right? And the top causes for failure are exactly over here. If I'm reading 5 different books for polity instead of reading same Lakshmikant 5 times, I am going to fail, because I need some depth of understanding in the subject. I need to understand the subject, and reading the same book multiple times really helps with developing an understanding of the subject. Another big problem with a lot of people is that people start with the idea of, I want to become a district collector, but they end up becoming PDF collectors. How many of you have a folder on your laptop, phone, tablet, whatever, where you are collecting a lot of PDFs? So if you have just, somewhere or the other started preparing for UPSC, this is a very, very, big impulse. I had it too. It's not like I am telling you this now, but when I started, I also did this. Even till my last attempt, what used to happen was there would be a folder where I'll be like, okay, this seems important. I'll just put it in the folder and never again will I open that folder. When I finally opened that folder, end of 6 attempts, 200 PDFs were there. Never opened once. Just put in the folder, never opened again. So this is what I'm telling you right now. PDF collector mat bano. Do not be a PDF collector. It's not going to help. The same basic things help. The same basic things work. Every damn year you'll hear the same toppers repeating the same thing. NCRT, basic books, revision. That's all. Do not read multiple sources. Stick to the same basic sources multiple times. Now, another big problem is a lot of people look for shortcuts and hacks. What is the best way to do this? What is the least amount of time? How can I do this? What are the chapters that I can ignore in this book, that book, XYZ? Now, I'm not saying that shortcuts and hacks don't exist. They do. Shortcuts and hacks do exist, but they only make sense to you after you have read the whole thing at least once or twice. So if you're trying to use shortcuts and hacks in the first reading itself, it's going to be problematic. Once you have done the first or second reading, yes, sure, something worth talking about. Even I'll share these things. But don't start with this. If you start with this, you will never get that understanding of the subject, because you're just trying to find the shortcut. Shortcuts come once you know the path. Once you've understood the path, then I can think about what's a shortcut. But in the beginning, no. Finally, hard work without direction is bound to fail. Kyun? Because civil services exam mein, this is one of the most important things that, there's a very nice quote that somebody once gave me, which I really like to repeat, which is that if you're going from Bombay to Kanpur in a Ferrari, no matter how fast you drive, you'll never reach Bombay. I hope that makes sense to you. Okay, even if I'm working hard, even if I'm, going in the fastest car, best resources, best everything, but if I'm in the wrong direction, I'll never reach where I'm supposed to go. So that's what I mean. Ki having the right direction is very, very useful. Now, with A lot of things available for free on YouTube. Like for example, even this session, the general sense of direction is something that you can figure out on your own. But again, if you have specific issues, specific doubts, so fair, UPSC Essential course, you can check out. Details available there. Now let's talk about what is the ideal schedule for a week, for a day, and for 2 years. So coming to the ideal schedule की बात करते हैं हम. सबसे पहली चीज, सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट इज you should aim for this. If you are preparing full time माने कि you have graduated college, you are not working anywhere else, and you are full time preparing for civil services exam. 6-day working week होते हैं, right? So if you are preparing for civil services exam full time, you are on a job, you already have a job. UPSC preparation is your full time job, 8 hours a day, 6 days. This is what I want you to keep in mind first and foremost, that if you're preparing for civil services exam, this is your full-time job. Now, if you are already doing a full-time job, or if you're in college, right, because you have some other time commitment for your day, 5 hours, 10 hours, whatever it is, there is something that you must do in the day, be it attend college, be it go for a job, whatever it is. So then, the demand is 3 to 5 hours in a day. At least 3 to 5 hours you want to try and do कि भाई 3 घंटा आप कहीं से निकालो. क्योंकि if you're not even able to take out 3 hours, 4 hours in a day, then I would suggest कि you reconsider why you want to do this. Because either you switch a job if you want to do this, or if you're already doing well in your job, then why are you doing this? Because at least 3 hours you will require per day, even if you're preparing with a job. And even if you're preparing with the college, 3 to 5, why I've said, because some days you might have more time, some days you might have less time. And especially for people with a full-time job, it's very important that you need to study at least 8 to 10 hours on the weekend, right? Bye-bye social life. Why do I say bye-bye social life? Because if you think I have only studied for 3 hours a day, Monday to Friday, and then on Friday night I'll go for a party so that I wake up at 12 on Saturday, so then you're wasting your time on Saturday. You only have Saturday and Sunday with a job. And on Saturday and Sunday, if you seriously want to prepare with a job, you will be required to do this. And this is what I want you to be clear about. If you are preparing with a job, you have to really, really think about your time prioritization. If you also want to have a social life, if you also want to have कि दोस्त रिश्तेदारी में जाएंगे, शादियां अटेंड करेंगे, मतलब फॉरेन ट्रिप करेंगे, नहीं होगा. या तो वो नहीं होगा, नहीं तो सिविल सर्विसेज नहीं होगा. This is what you have to choose, and you have to be very clear about this on day one. Finally, if it is a mix of it, let's say you're in a part-time job or you're in a 100% remote job, sometimes you have to work, sometimes you don't have to work, a lot of things, I would say that there should be a day off. इन लोगों के लिए half a day off मिलता है, एक day off आप इधर ले लो, and उसके बाद try and fix your timeline based on how much time you have available when. Now this is a general understanding of how much time am I supposed to be studying. Full-time job 8 to 10 hours a day. मैंने 50 hours per week क्यों बोला है? 50 hours per week का there is a very simple logic that on some days I might not feel like studying. Like even if you're working, how many people who are watching this right now are working professionals? Right? So there are a lot of people who are working professionals who are watching this session. तो working, जब work में भी क्या होता है? On some days you're very productive. Right, what you've done is like you've done that report, you had to do some close some tickets, you had to do XYZ things, everything you've done, and even then you're left with time, right? And since you're feeling productive, so what you'll do, you'll do something from the next day also. And on some days you're just like, I don't want to do anything, I'm just like, I'm here because if I don't come here they'll cut my pay, but I am not in the mood to do anything. So even with preparation, there'll be days like this, highly productive days and then non-productive days. So day to day, a general sense is 8 hours per day, but there might be some days where you're only studying 2 to 4 hours, but there might be some days where you're studying 10 hours because you feel it. And that's what we want. Overall, 50 hours a week, if you can do full time, it's good. With this group, there will be some skills that you're already used to. These are people who will already have some communication skill, right? Because if you're working in a job, communication is a thing that you are already practicing. You might already be practicing some form of writing. Let's say that if you're a content writer, or let's say if you're a coder, so you might be writing docs for your code, or whatever it is. Some communication and writing practice you guys already will have. And in such a case, I want to figure out what is the best time for me to study. Should I study before work? Should I study after work? Before work mein kya rahega? It will be easier for me to ensure that yes, every day I'm giving the amount of time that is required. After work mein kya problem hai? I don't know which work day I'll suddenly get a higher workload, because on a work day with a higher workload, I will be expected to do more work, right? That is how things work in India. So this is where understanding how much time do I have and being ruthless with your time is absolutely essential if you're serious about giving civil services exam, and particularly for people giving it next year. 27 में अगर आप दे रहे हो, तो again you have a little more time, you have some time to play around with. But if you're given 26, you have to be efficient, you have to be focused. Now coming to the ideal week, basic idea हमारे same है. एक one thing I would say is, how do you plan review? There are two ways in which you can plan a review, right? Revision की बात जब हम कर रहे थे, तो revision has to be made a part of your plan, and making it part of a plan means that either I set 1 hour every day, that what I'll do is कि okay, I've studied 6, 7, 8 hours in the day, and at the end of the day I'm then going and 1 hour में revising everything that has been done. So what was the first thing that we talked about? Very first thing that we talked about. So somebody very clearly said, which a lot of you are missing. The first thing that we talked about is the agenda for today. What are the things that we'll be covering in today's session? Then we talked about what is the end goal. I showed you mark sheets that this is what we are looking for. We talked about the reserve list. Then we talked about age limit. Then we talked about attempts. Then we talked about what is the pattern of the exam, prelims ka syllabus, mains ka syllabus. Then we talked about a little bit about book list for prelims, mains, and then we talked about what is expected in the interview. Then we came to do's and don'ts. Then we have come here. तो अब ये बहुत सिंपल सी चीज है ना, that just being able to walk yourself through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If this you can do every day, at the end of the day, that I read 8 chapters, 5 chapters, however many chapters. What did I read in that chapter? What did I read in that chapter? XYZ. If you can do this at the end of the day, you are going to make a lot of progress. Alternatively, what you can do is you can do it 1 day per week. Meaning, I can set a day that Sundays go 3 hours or 4 hours. Rest of my day on Sunday is going to be a break. But for 3 hours on Sunday morning, I will just do this, that I will try and review all the things that I have covered in the week. ये क्यों जरूरी है? Because a lot of you might have already realized that since we have so many things to study, we will forget a lot of these things. And that is what you have to keep in mind, that revision has to be part of your ideal day or week. ठीक है? The third most important thing is that you need to take a break. Even let's say if you clear in your first attempt, in 2026, how much time do you think it will require you to study? 12 महीने तो अभी से हो गए, right? 12 months right now from June to next May, and then 1 year entirely in the exam process, because prelims and mains तक पढ़ोगे, mains से interview तक पढ़ोगे, and then once interview is done, you will again start preparing for the next attempt, because you don't know if you're going to make it to the list or not. So because it is going to be a continuous, ongoing, at least 2 years ka journey, even if you're clearing it in the first attempt in 26, therefore, I need to take breaks. I am not a machine, and if you're thinking that you'll behave like a machine and you'll work with 100% efficiency throughout the next 2 years, you're setting yourself up for failure. This is why it's important to consider, I need to have breaks. And अगर ideal day की बात करें, ideal day में, even in the day, I should have some idea of where my breaks are first. Right? My day should not be I'm studying for 4 hours, half an hour ka break, then 4 hours, half an hour ka break. No. I should have set breaks. Meaning, let's say I'm studying from 9 to 12, then 12 to 2 break, then 2 to 5, then 5 to 7 break, then 7 to 9, right? I can study 1 more hour in the morning or I can study 1 more hour at the night, completely up to you. But general idea kya hai? That it should be very clear that this period is going to be a break. Why am I talking about this? Why am I asking you to set the breaks first? Kyunki when we do this, it gives us a negotiating tool with ourselves. How many of you negotiate with yourselves whenever you're sitting to study? Let me just watch this video and then I'll sit to study. You're like, just like, I'll do this thing and then I'll do that. Right? I'm sure everybody does this. So this sort of a negotiation, when you get into a habit of it, what it becomes is ki one more video. I also do it at times. Ki bhi alarm baj raha hai, 5 more minutes. So this sort of a negotiation, what you need to understand is that when I've set my breaks first, so then agar 2 to 5 ke beech mein, if I'm feeling like, acha, like let me take a half an hour break, I can at least tell myself that, there's a 2-hour break at 5 p.m. any which way. Let me just continue. What we're doing is we're giving ourselves tools to negotiate with ourselves, because you will negotiate with yourselves. And it is very, very easy to understand you will give in also, because the easiest person to fool is yourself. Second most important thing is you have to set a routine. Routine and discipline are going to be critical elements of your success in civil services exam. Routine ka kya matlab hai? Try and wake up and sleep at the same time. Let's say if you're following this sort of a schedule, wake up at 7 every day, no later than 7, no earlier than 7, sleep by 11 every day. Good food, light food, don't eat heavy food, because if over here you've eaten heavy food, you will feel sleepy over here. Eat enough food. Don't be like, I am deficient in iron, I'm not getting enough vitamin D. Vitamins and supplements are also important, because a lot of you, if you have spent, like, if you're like a general individual in this country, you will be deficient in vitamin D. I particularly found out in January of this year that my vitamin D levels were abysmal, very, very low. और उससे क्या होता है? You generally feel lethargic. You generally feel non-focused. Food and nutrition are very, very important for you, therefore. Finally, workout. Every day, at least 30 minutes of exercise, I would highly recommend that you do, because it has been scientifically proven that aerobic activity boosts memory and brain cell generation. So, agar in this entire journey where I'm supposed to do a lot of memory, a lot of, memorization, if I'm working to improve my memory, that's also something that I should try, right? So workout and 8 hours of study. Finally, please be aware of procrastination. This is something that somebody said at the beginning of the session itself. How many of you have this problem of procrastination? Everybody does it, right? Sometimes we do it much more than required. Sometimes we have it under control. So, kuch cheezein you have to recognize your patterns, that when are you most likely to procrastinate. Like, for example, what I realized is I am very likely to procrastinate when I'm hungry, right? Or when the task that I have in front of me is very hard, because then I'll feel I can't do this, so therefore chhad do, kuch aur dekhte hain. I'll feel guilty about doing the other thing. I'll feel guilty about watching that video. I'll not be very happy or comfortable, but I will still procrastinate. So you have to understand what are your patterns. Now, another very big thing was over here, revenge bedtime procrastination. How many of you heard of this? I know Radhika has heard of it. So revenge bedtime procrastination is that exact thing. What is happening is the entire day I've not touched my phone. So, 9 p.m., 10 p.m., I take up my phone. I'll watch just some videos. And now suddenly I see the time. It is 3 a.m. And because it is now 3 a.m., so I'm not getting up at 7 a.m. And because I'm not getting up at 7 a.m., so the rest of the entire day is gone. So understanding how you can fail will help you make your systems better. And this is what an ideal day will look like. I will not give you an exact schedule. Kya, kyun, kaise. This is something for you to determine for yourself. I used to follow this sort of a schedule because why? It was easier for me to do this. Another reason why I did this is very simple. This is the time period in which the exam will be happening. So if you can, try and read or study at the time that exam is happening, so that your brain is generally focused at that time. Other than that, तुमको रात को पढ़ना है, दिन में पढ़ना है, you want to wake up at 5 a.m., whatever time works for you, do it. But keep these 3 things in mind. I hope this is clear. Breaks first, routine and procrastination. Finally, so plan with daily targets. This I've already shared with all of you. So this sheet is available. जो वीडियो है recent, उसमें आपको ये डिटेल्ड प्लान वाली शीट मिल जाएगी. 9th जून से मंडे से दिस प्लान इज स्टार्टिंग. दिस प्लान हैज लाइक एवरीथिंग. देयर इज द डेली प्लान, देयर इज द लार्ज मैक्रो लेवल की भैया अच्छा वीक 1 में क्या कर रहे हैं, 2 में क्या कर रहे हैं, 3 4 5 6 7. लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल 4 weeks, 4.5 weeks you're doing polity, 2 weeks environment, 3 weeks economy, and so on and so forth. This plan is already available, we've shared. You can check out the YouTube video for this. उसका मतलब डिस्क्रिप्शन में आपको इसका लिंक मिल जाएगा. और व्हाट आई विल आल्सो डू इज upscprep.com/plans कि भी यहाँ पे upscprep.com में रिसोर्सेज प्लान्स विद डेली टारगेट्स. आई विल आल्सो ऐड दिस शीट ओवर हियर. ठीक है, मूविंग ऑन. रिवीजन. एक बेसिक आइडिया रिवीजन का हमने बात कर ही ली है, दैट इट हैज टू बी इंटीग्रेटेड इनटू योर schedule itself. How am I integrating it? Either 1 hour every day or 1 day every week, or if you feel like this, you can also do this. Every 4-5 weeks, 1 week I've just set for revision. Whatever I have covered in the last 4-5 weeks, 2-3 days I'll take for revision, and then I'll move to the next subject. It should be a part of the process. It is not something that I will separately make time for. It is supposed to be part of the plan. And जो plan हमने भी दिया है यहाँ पे, तो इसमें आपका रिवीजन कैसा हो रहा है? सर्कुलर हो रहा है. दैट वी हैव स्टार्टेड विद पॉलिटी जून जुलाई में. Then again we will come back to polity over here, but just within polity also what will happen is at the end of it, first we're done the NCRTs. तो एक reading of polity has happened. तो उसके बाद what will happen is कि भाई I'm also reading Lakshmikant. Lakshmikant is another revision of polity. बीच में there are every Sunday you have a break in the plan, and once I'm done with reading of polity, there will also be PYQ analysis and a section test, right? So these things are already built into the plan. Multiple revisions you'll be doing through this plan and all of this, and the plan obviously also follows our UPSC essential course. So notes. Like I said earlier, first reading NCRTs, first reading standard books, don't worry about making notes. It is in the second and the third reading that you start making notes, right? First reading mein, if you're making running notes ka kya matlab hai? That I'm just trying to write as I'm reading something so that I understand. This is what I'll call throwaway notes. कि भाई मैंने एक छोटा सा पैड इस तरीके से, I've kept a pad like this with me. I'm writing something and I'll tear away the paper and throw it away. That's it. So this is something, if you're doing, absolutely fine, do it. But your fair notes, the notes that you'll be using for review later on, after second or third round only, right? Because then your notes will start acting as the source for faster and easier revision. The first time, if I've spent 5 weeks doing polity, it's fine. Second time, while I'm doing polity, I'll also try and make my notes. I'll still take 2, 3, 4 weeks. Third time when I'm reading polity, I'll take 2 weeks. Fourth time when I'm reading polity, I'll only take 1 week. And every further time after that, it will take me less and less time to do this subject because I've made my notes. Finally, active recall. So a few minutes ago, we did an active recall exercise where we, went through the entire session plan, right? Session plan में हमने बात करी थी कि कहाँ से हमने शुरू किया, कि भाई आज के लिए agenda क्या है, this, that. We followed the entire journey. What did that do? It told us if we had forgotten anything. It told us कि okay, I'm missing something. If I'm missing something, I can go back and review it right now, right? So that is going to be a very, very important part for you to transfer things from your short-term memory to your long-term memory. And this is something that I want you to keep in mind. Whenever you're reading a chapter, whenever you're reading a subject, just at the end of that, try and run the entire chapter in your head. Just try to think, okay, what were the headings given in the chapter? If you can do just this much, you will be better off than 80% of the people, right? So, isme another thing that comes up is digital notes, handwritten notes, all of these things. इसमें हम आते हैं. Consistency कहाँ गायब हो गया हमारी, right? तो आंसर राइटिंग सबसे पहले व्हेन टू स्टार्ट, हाउ टू राइट एंड इवैल्यूएशन, इन चीजों के बारे में थोड़ी बात करते हैं. Most important, how do I get started with answer writing? So this is my answer. This is my standard answer for how do you get started with answer writing. Take a pen, take a paper, write. Don't worry about the fact that, I'm writing bad answers. The first 50 to 100 answers that you write will be bad answers. But if you don't write these bad answers, you will never write good answers. So this is what you have to keep in mind. You have to do that work of just removing the kachara from your head. The kachara will take that amount of time. Somebody might be able to do it in 30 answers. Somebody might require 120. This is not a fixed or sacrosanct range, but the idea is simple. So long as you don't write bad answers, you will never write good answers. So get started with answer writing. Don't worry about when, where, how. ठीक है? When एक बहुत simple सा यहाँ पे है, just like with notes, after you have done one reading of any subject, after you have done one reading of any subject, start. And इसमें I'll give you an easier way for how you can start. Let's say, for example, this is one of the NCRTs that we recommend that you read, which is Indian Constitution at Work, class 11th, Polity की NCRT. इसमें let's say there is a chapter 2, rights in the Indian Constitution. And at the end of the chapter, there is a question which says, question number 10, which of the fundamental rights is in your opinion the most important one? Summarize its provisions and give arguments to show why it is the most important. It's a very good question for you to practice answer writing. Don't expect, one day I'll wake up and suddenly I'll start writing mains quality answers or mains ka PYQs. You have to make progress step by step. So start with NCRT ka questions. Thereafter, practice questions. If you want, plenty of places you'll find. We also have an initiative, Mains Excel. तो practice questions वगैरह बहुत सारी चीज आ जाएगी. But first step, at least one reading of the subject. Second step, NCRT के आंसर लिखना शुरू करो. This will make it easier for you. Don't try and jump. If you can jump, sure, try it out. But most people I know, if they follow this path, will find it easier. And again, write bad answers in order to write good answers. Now, answer writing is one place where I highly recommend that you get feedback. Why? Because, writing is one place where we generally think that I have written the best answer possible. I have written the best answer possible because if I could write better, I would have written it. So because I've written the best answer possible, I also need to check if others can understand what I have written. This is a very, very big problem that happens a lot of the time, that I am thinking something. From that thinking, I have written something. The person in front will read what I have written, and on the basis of that, they will think. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Generally, you will find that there is a big gap between this thing and this thing, because either there is a gap between what you have thought and what you have written, or there is a gap between what you have written and what the other person has understood from what you have written. So getting feedback on writing is very, very important. Now, how do you get feedback? फीडबैक के लिए 2-3 तरीके की चीजें हैं आपकी. नंबर 1, obviously get some feedback from your parents, from your friends, from your peers, from your mentors. If you've joined the course, again, very easy for you to get feedback. But let's say that you've not joined the course. So a couple of things that you can do over here. 1, 2, chat GPT, right? Chat GPT or even WhatsApp. So WhatsApp pay, how many of you have used Meta AI? Yes or no? Right. So if you've not used it, Meta AI can also be a good way for you to get some feedback. Again, for that, it will not be handwritten. You will have to type something out, and then you can ask Meta AI, okay, how can I improve this? Can I improve the language in this? Can I give a different example here? Those sorts of things. Chat GPT and this. Then obviously, we have also started the mains Excel program. But I would not recommend that you join the mains Excel program right now. If you're just a beginner, I would still recommend, one reading of the subject. And after that, you start figuring out NCRTs. And then if you feel enough, I want to practice answer writing, mains Excel, it's a free initiative from us. You can go and get that done. Right. So now let's come to making notes. So note making, maybe again, core idea, when to make notes after second reading. First reading mein don't make notes because it will seem like everything is important. Another very important point while making notes, and this is something that a lot of people do, even I did this in my first few attempts, is that when I'm making notes, I will start making notes as per the book. right? Ki if I'm making notes of NCRT, so I will make a note of class 11th NCRT notes. Do not make notes as per the book. Your notes should be organized as per the topics of the syllabus. Why? Because UPSC has asked you to cover polity. It has not asked you to do Lakshmikant. Please understand the difference between this. UPSC is asking you to cover the subject of polity. It is not asking you to do Lakshmikant. Lakshmikant is a good way to cover polity, but Lakshmikant is just one of the ways to cover polity. So therefore, if I go as per the syllabus, if there is something that I don't understand in Lakshmikant, if there is something that I find is missing in Lakshmikant, or if something needs to be updated XYZ, if I go as per the syllabus, I will make sure that thing is also added in my notes. So therefore, whenever you're making a notes, don't make them according to book, don't make them according to month. Month की बात क्या हो रही है? Current affairs जैसे हम करते हैं. So let's say that I'm reading something right now in the month of June, right? So what will happen is कि भाई जून में पार्लियामेंट का मॉनसून सेशन हो रहा है, हो जाएगा, right? But then what will happen in my notes? This will be in the month of June, or maybe it's in July. Next time it will happen is winter session of parliament, November में होगा या December में होगा. Next time it will happen in February, March, when the budget session will happen. If I have to find anything related to parliament session, I will have to flip through my notes. Ki, is it in June or was it in July? But instead, if I organize my notes, कि भाई parliament किधर आएगा? Which subject will parliament be a part of? Parliament is part of polity. So if I put all the things that I have read in current affairs with regards to parliament in that polity wala section, now it can be a digital book or it can be a handwritten. Either way, it doesn't matter. If you're making handwritten notes, you have to organize them in folders. If you're making digital notes, obviously you can create separate files over there. If I have organized it as per GS2, polity, parliament. So what will happen is I know everything related to parliament I'll find at one place. I don't care if it happened in June, in September, November, December, whenever it happened, everything will be over there. And that's what I want you to keep in mind. Organizing your notes is going to be the most important part of your note making process, because organization helps you use your notes. You have to use your notes, because if you're not using your notes, all of this effort is useless, wasted. ठीक है? You have to use your notes. If you're not using them, तो फिर मतलब मत बनाओ. So what to note? Note making will serve various purposes. Number one, let's say for example, for current affairs, I'll be noting down a lot of facts that this convention met over here. These were the things that came up. SARC का मीटिंग यहाँ पे हुआ, ब्रिक्स का मीटिंग यहाँ पे हुआ, शंघाई कॉर्पोरेशन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का मीटिंग यहाँ पे हुआ. 1 2 3 some points that are made, very very factual. ठीक है? मेंस के लिए आई विल डू एनालिसिस टाइप नोट्स. एनालिसिस क्या है कि भाई if there is a issue, let us say we are making notes of hunger. So first I'll talk about what are the stats for hunger. Then what I'll talk about is biggest causes for hunger. Then I'll talk about what are the issues that hunger causes. Then I'll talk about what are the schemes. Then I'll talk about what are the other possible things that can be used to address hunger. तो ये क्या हुआ? These are more in-depth analytical notes. One page pe I'll make a full note of what is everything related to hunger. These are the things that I want to make for mains. Current affairs are very very fact-based. Acha, there is a new national park that has been declared. One line written, done. Nothing more needs to be done. Finally, you need to make a note of your mistakes in tests. Tests में क्या गलतियां होती हैं? That, like for example, I made a very silly mistake. Maybe it's a silly mistake. Maybe I forgot the point. But so that I don't make the same mistake twice, I'll just note down 1 or 2 lines about, okay, in this test, I made this mistake. Like for example, what I used to do was I had like separate notebooks for my test mistakes. If I'm making some mistakes in modern history, so then I'm a note of 40, 50 points. I gave 4 or 5 tests of modern history and these were the things that I made a mistake in. So what will happen is next time I'm giving a test of modern history or any other subject, I will read these first and then go into that test, ensuring that I'm not making the same mistake again. Right. The final most important part of note making. Notes are a work in progress. You will constantly need to keep reviewing and updating your note. first time that you're making your notes, during the second or third reading, you will make very big notes. But as you revise more and more times, what will happen is a lot of that information will get fed into your brain and you will cut down on the pages in notes. Like for example, if I talk about it, so Ayan Jain, he is somebody who has cleared with an under 100 rank 2 times, right? AIR 87 in 22 and AIR 16 in 2023. He had entire GSK notes in about less than 100 pages. Entire, all 4 GS का subjects less than 100 pages. बट उनके नोट्स आप जाके देखोगे ना तो वो सर के ऊपर से चला जाएगा. क्यों? बिकॉज इन हिज नोट्स व्हाट ही हैज डन, हंगर, he has written 5 keywords under hunger, that's it. What do I do with that? These notes will not make sense to you until and unless you have done the work by yourself. They can be very helpful for you when you are reviewing your notes. Ki, have I missed something? Has he written something else? Can I get something more from there? Then, this is something that's going to come over here. So are the 3 principles for making notes clear, that you have to organize them, what are the things that you are noting down, and review of notes. And I think current affairs and consistency, that those are the 2 most important things that are left. So let's talk about current affairs. Most important, I want you to do this very simple one thing, is that I want you to start reading the newspaper regularly. If you are just beginning your UPSC preparation, reading the newspaper is one of the most important things that you need to do, because as a beginner, you don't have the language of how to talk about a number of things. So reading the newspaper will give you some of that language. Number 2, what will happen is, reading the newspaper and particularly the editorials and the opinion page, what it will do is it will teach you how to think about a problem, right? For example, I'll tell you, there is a certain Mr. Ashok Gulati. Now, you might not have heard of him, but he's one of the foremost experts in India on agriculture, right? So if Ashok Gulati is now writing an article or an opinion piece in the newspaper telling you about how do we reform MSP, or how do we fertilizer subsidy पे कैसे काम करना है, क्या करना है, I will at least hear him out. I will try and see how is this person thinking about this, right? If there is a certain individual called C. Rajamohan, so he writes a syndicated column called Rajmandala. He is an expert on international relations. And if this guy is now coming and telling me how should India think about India, US and India, China, I will give him a listen, right? So this is what needs to be done. In the newspaper, editorials, articles, what will happen is, like for example, you'll have Admiral Arun Prakash, who was the chief of naval staff. He will write an article, what are the reforms needed in the Navy, or what are the defense modernization things that are required. So reading the newspaper teaches me how the people who are running these organizations or who are thinking about this the entire day, what are the parameters they are using to think. So that is something that's very, very important, and that cannot be replaced from monthly magazine. If you're thinking I will only read monthly magazine or PT 365 or something of that sort, please save yourself, read the newspaper. And this is something that I want you to do in the newspaper for the next 1 or 2 months at least. If you're just starting preparation, 1 to 2 months, I want you to do this simple indexing exercise. What is indexing? That whenever I'm reading an article in the newspaper, you have a lot of subjects. Okay? I want to check how many subjects is this article related to. Is it related to polity or economy or geography, history, international relations, sports, ethics? Like even for ethics, what will happen is, like for example, you'll hear cases of this person ने इतना bank loan fraud करके भाग गया, या that person ने is a politician charged with corruption, or this person, IAS officer, this person has been caught with this much amount of money. What is this? It is all somewhere related to GS4 ethics. So indexing करने से 2 चीजें होंगी. Number 1, obviously you'll start getting a sense of what is important in the newspaper and what is not. If you cannot match a news item to any of these, then you know कि I can ignore this. Number 2, I said this earlier also, you will get a thorough understanding of the syllabus, which is very, very important for you, right? So here, question asked, which newspaper should I read? Would it be Indian Express or Hindu? Either of them you can read. Both of them are good newspapers. Personally, I prefer reading the Indian Express paper. Indian Express, again, is slightly better, I would say, for the very simple reason that Indian Express has a page in it, which is the explained page. This one page gives you a deep dive every day on some particular topic, and that's a very good way to go about it. Even if you're reading the Hindu, all of the best columnists that we talked about will also be found in the Hindu. So no problem on that front. Right. So Hindi medium ke liye you can do Dainik Bhaskar. How to make notes of newspaper. For the first 2 months, don't make notes of newspaper. After that, once you've done some reading of the subject, then we'll talk about how to make notes of reading newspaper. And I'll also have a detailed webinar on how to make notes of newspaper. So that is something that will come up in the later sessions. You will have to make notes of current affairs, but details of this, we will have a whole other webinar, because again, there is a lot to be talked about over here. Webinar, or there'll be a video or something, because again, too much to talk about and I don't want to take another 1 hour over here. The core idea with current affairs is, how much current affairs do you need to do? At least 12 months. At least 12 months. Meaning if you're giving prelims in May of 2026 next year, so from May, June of this year, you will be doing current affairs. So for now, for the first 2 months, even if you're indexing, it is fine. We'll start making notes after that. क्योंकि पहला 1-2 महीना you have to also get used to the idea of what is important and what is not. And one of the most important things for you to keep in mind, that current affairs will add value. Current affairs will add value only when you have done the basics. If you have not done the basics, current affairs will just be something, to distract you. First, do the basics and then I'll worry about current affairs. If I've not done the basics, if my static subjects are left, if any of my GS subjects is pending, I should not worry too much about current affairs. Once I've done the basic GS subjects, then I'll worry about current affairs. So these are some good programs. If you are just starting out and you want to, ab yahan pe bahut sare, a lot of people will ask me that, can I watch news analysis videos that a lot of institutes, that a lot of like places will be coming out on YouTube. Instead of that, try this. So Start Here is a good program for international relations. But again, keep in mind, Al Jazeera has a slightly, pro-Pakistan, anti-India tilt, but still it will give you the basics of what is happening, how are these two countries interacting with each other. Then there's a very good program over here, Cut the Clutter by The Print. And one of the best is Frank Rausen Pereira on Sansad TV. So Frank Pereira, what he'll do is he'll bring retired bureaucrats, retired defense personnel, senior decision makers within the government of India, and then they will discuss problems that the country is facing right now. And very, very, very to the point, very intelligent discussions. And this is not like, oh, kya hai hamara Arnab Goswami type thing. This is not at all like that. These are very, very civil debates. प्यार से बात करते हैं सब लोग, तमीज से अपना पॉइंट रखते हैं, चिल्लाने वाली चीजें यहाँ नहीं होती है. तो दिस आई वुड हाईली रिकमेंड, गेट स्टार्टेड विद, क्योंकि अगेन रोज नहीं आता ये. whenever it is coming, do check out Frank Pereira on Sunset TV, Frank Rausen Pereira, and some debate or something he's holding on Sunset TV. So these are the things, good programs, do check them out. Now, test series and consistency, khatam. Test series, when do you start giving a test? After you have finished a subject. Don't give a test before you've read the subject. You will score bad marks and you will feel demotivated. After one round of reading, एक subject का test दे सकते हो आप. After you've read all subjects once, start giving full tests, meaning both for prelims and for mains. After you've done one reading, don't give tests without reading, because then it will just be like, I'll score bad marks, I'll not do anything. Second, how many tests should I give? At least 1-2 tests per subject, right? Section tests, 1-2. I've read polity, I'll give a section test polity. I've read geography, I'll give a section test geography. Every subject, at least 1 test, and then 4 to 5 full tests. So इसमें क्या हो जाएगा? Minimum 10 to 12 tests you are giving for prelims, and at least 5 tests you are giving for mains. 5 कौन से? 5 नहीं, 7 होगा. 5 plus 2, because you're also giving 2 for optional, right? You can give more, but itne to do try and give. Finally, tests may be It's very important that you spend some time on reviewing the test, figure out what were the mistakes that you made so that you can learn from your mistakes. That is the most important part, because I've just given a test, I've got bad marks, and then I've burned that paper and thrown it away. So then that is not a good way to go about it. Even if you have gotten great marks, you still need to be aware of how did you get those great marks so that you can replicate that entire thing. And don't be afraid of bad marks. Bad marks are your friend. Bad marks are teaching you how to improve. If you're getting good marks, I may not always figure out ki, acha, what is the thing that really worked for me over here. But if I'm getting bad marks, I am definitely sure that there are some things that I should avoid. Finally, coming to consistency. तो consistency के लिए एक सबसे बड़ा idea है that this is a mistake and this is failure. Who can tell me the difference between a mistake and a failure in this representation? In a mistake, they tried, but they did not hit the mark. But at least I know, okay, I need to improve. Next time I'll hit here, I'll hit here, I'll maybe hit here. Eventually, I'll end up here. But if I don't try, I'm never going to hit here. So building consistency is a lot about this journey from here to here to here to here. It is an iterative process, meaning you will not get the final result on the first day. But if you keep trying, you'll figure it out. So that's why मतलब बार बार जब मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि don't be afraid of bad marks, don't be afraid of making mistakes, don't be afraid of writing bad answers. All of those things are with this idea. Because if I've made a mistake, I can learn from that mistake. If I don't try at all, if I don't write an answer, if I don't give a test, I am bound to fail because I am not getting any information. Next, theory इस तरीके से दिखाई देती है. What happens is that I've given you a 12-month plan कि भाई daily basis पे ये करना है वो करना है क्या है. It seems like I'll just follow the plan and everything will go perfect and IAS. But in practice, what happens is this. I'll have a good day, I'll have a bad day, I'll have a good day, again good day, bad day. Life goes on like this. But larger picture अगर मैं इसमें देखूं, so the larger picture is showing me progress. Is it not? Get used to this. There will be some good days, there will be some bad days, and that is absolutely normal. Nobody is perfect enough that every day we will be doing 100% of whatever it is that we wanted to do. I want to try and keep achieving my target. It is a constant work in progress. Finally, consistency maintain करने के लिए one of the most important things is you have to be resilient. का क्या मतलब होता है? Resilient is the idea that I am unbreakable, right? I might get bent, I might get hurt, but I will keep fighting, I will keep trying. When I try to build my consistency that I will never miss, then what happens is that first day that I have missed 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 perfect consistency chal rahi thi, but one day that I miss, and because my target was that I should never miss, so then I gave up. Why? Because after 7 days I've already failed, because my target was to never give up. If you plan like this, that I will never make a mistake, that I will never need a break, I will do 100% everything, you will fail. But if you are a little more resilient, and if you say that, okay, I might miss once or twice. Why? Because see, I can get sick. There can be some emergency. There can be some genuine serious issue because of which you were not able to study. There might be a flood. There might be a cyclone. There might be earthquake. And recently, India-Pakistan case mein, jaise we saw, there were people who were studying in Jammu who could not. Now, are those people not consistent, or are those people just having a day off because it's not conducive? So if I think about consistency like this, it is much easier for me to maintain it. That okay, I might miss from time to time, but I don't want to make a habit of missing again. To get back on, 3 days missed, okay, कोई बात नहीं, दोबारा try करेंगे. कोशिश करो जितना लंबा streak बना पाओ, the better it will be for you, right? So this brings us to the end of the discussion. For those that are interested in the UPSC Essential course, you can visit courses.upscprep.com. There is a 10% discount that is going on for the next couple of days till 10th of June. There is a 10% discount. So if you're interested in joining, please do ensure that you take that discount. The details course का code for discount, the schedule of the course, the brochure of the course, who will be your faculties, all of these details will be available here. Live classes, basic to advanced levels may we will go. 3 years of mentorship ka access you get in this. Test series, full prelims, mains, csat, everything will be included in this one particular course. Right, so the application is also available for those that are interested on the Google and the iOS Play Store. But again, I would recommend that you go here and check the brochure. And if you have any doubts, any queries, you can also email us on contact@upscprep.com. And particularly course related आपको कोई और issues भी हैं तो 821696 you can WhatsApp us on this number. Right, so this is the end of the session and discussion.